It is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials. Welcome to the June 23, 2025 regular city council meeting. We are meeting at 26 South Paint Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio. Before we start, I do want to mention one thing. I know there's been some static that's been reported when we're trying to stream some of these meetings, a little difficult to hear. The IT folks are working on it. I met with them today, so we should get that cleared up soon, but if that takes place, I apologize. Hopefully that won't be a problem. At this point, I am now going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. Bennett? Payne?
Here.
Barnes? McKeever? Dement?
Here.
Preston? Dunn?
Here.
Creed?
Here.
We do have a quorum. Mr. McKeever and Ms. Preston and Mr. Barnes informed me that they could not be here this evening. Is there a motion to excuse them from tonight's meeting? Motion by Ms. Payne. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Dunn. The clerk will call the roll.
Bennett?
Yes.
Payne?
Yes.
Dement?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Creed?
Yes.
With only 5 members present, I'll just warn the members that this will be the first time that all the present members are on the streaming video here. So, you might want to conduct yourself appropriately now that everybody can see everyone that's here. I would ask Ms. Payne to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The minutes from the June 9, 2025 regular meeting have been distributed. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Ms. Dunn, second by Mr. Creed. Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett?
Yes.
Payne?
Yes.
Dement?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Creed?
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Reports of committees. We've got, as I mentioned, 3 members that are not here. And just today, I appointed Ms. Dunn as the chair of the engineering committee. So we'll probably have abbreviated reports, but I'll go ahead and read down the committee list and we'll go from there. Development Committee, Mr. Dement.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. Development has 2 items on tonight's agenda. Number 7, which is the second reading of a resolution establishing the Greater Chiillicothe-Ross County Film Commission and defining its composition, purpose, duties, and operational guidelines. We also have number 11, which is the first reading of a resolution approving signage variances for Coco Salon and Spa, located at 54 Ewing Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio, and for Yerg Financial Group, located at the corner of Walnut and 2nd Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio, as recommended by the Board of Zoning Appeals and declaring an emergency. I was going to request waiver of the 3 reads, but we won't be able to do that tonight. Also, Development Committee recently announced a committee meeting on Wednesday, June 25th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers, where American Structure Point will be on hand to discuss and answer questions concerning the Chiillicothe Planning and Zoning Code update. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
And just for purposes of those who are attending here, there'll be a meeting before that for the public over across the street to talk about the specifics of the Planning Commission's work. So you can go there, come here for the meeting, but either way, you'll get an overview of what's happening relative to changes in the code. Next is Engineering Committee, Ms. Dunn, who as I said, I was just appointed today as the chair, so we're not expecting an in-depth report.
We did have a review meeting on the 16th, and excuse me, yes, on the 16th, and we reviewed the zoning for 36 North Walnut Street, and we agreed to make a recommendation about adding another change to what was already added about a green space, and clearer language about removing pet waste material from the site, and referred it back, as I believe, to zoning committee. Is that correct, Jeff? Yes. Okay. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Finance and Technology Committee, Mr. Creed.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. We had a committee meeting earlier to talk about borrowing money, approximately $1.55 million to purchase vehicles that were approved in this year's and the previous year's budgets. The committee did recommend that move forward, so we should see that on the next agenda. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight. Item number 4 is a third reading of an ordinance for an agreement between Chiillicothe and Ross County, which allows us to be eligible through 2026 for state reimbursement costs incurred in appointing counsel for indigent criminal defendants. Appreciate your vote on that this evening. Item number 5, an ordinance appropriating $146,032.67 for our share of the ODOT project on Western Avenue. Again, that's on the third read, so appreciate your support on that as well. The next one is item number 6. It's an ordinance appropriating $100,000 for income tax refund and transfer $25,000 back to general fund from a proportionate share from other departments. So that should go on to the next. And item number 9 is a resolution adopting the tax budget for the city of Chiillicothe for calendar year beginning January 1, 2026. Our auditor presented that before our last meeting, and so that will go on to the third reading. That concludes our report.
Thank you. Human Resources Committee, Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. We do not have an item on the agenda this evening and nothing new to report on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes isn't here for the Parks and Rec Committee, so we'll move on. And the Safety Service Committee, Ms. Preston isn't here unless there's someone on that committee that's here to report on that.
I can get that, President Shoemaker. Safety has 2 items on the agenda. Item number 3 is just under $8,000 for the purchase of 5 laptops for the law director's office. That's a third reading, so appreciate your support on that at the appropriate time. And item number 10 is accepting the grant for the Victims of Crime Act and State Victims Assistance Act grants. That one has a short time frame, so I've requested the President Shoemaker have a special meeting next week so that we can get that one passed and accept that grant so we can move forward with that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. The Utilities Committee is Mr. McKeever. We can bypass that one, as well as City Services Committee. Community Affairs Committee, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. We don't have anything on the agenda or anything in the future right now, so that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Report of officials. It looks like Auditor Spetnagel is the sole representative of the administration here, so we'll give her an opportunity to report to us.
And I do not have anything to report.
Next, we're going to move on to audience participation. Any person wishing to address the council must first provide his or her name and address. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes, and I'll give you a warning when there is 1 minute remaining.
Hey, I didn't talk last week. last meeting, so I get to do twice.
We need your name and address, even though we know who you are.
I'll speak up. John Thacker, 990 Columbus Street, apartment 307, Chiillicothe. First comment I would have is about the item number 8, which is the water rate increase of 2%. I was at the committee meeting at which this was discussed, and I think that the utility director did make it pretty clear that ideally they would have more money than will be raised by this increase. I realize a 2% increase to a hard-strapped budget is difficult, but in order to replace aging infrastructure throughout the city, that we probably will need more than that, and we'll find perhaps down the road that we didn't do what we needed to do now, and we'll wonder why we did. After the fact is not a good time to kick yourself, so I would just recommend that perhaps that rate be increased. I realize it's a hardship on people, but it's not going to be decided tonight anyway. There's going to be one more reading at 3 weeks from now. So perhaps somebody has an idea what to come up with. Separately, I'm trying to understand the process by which committee assignments are made. If they're always by means of emails or direct letters. Do people actually send letters nowadays? What I would like to do is ask someone, whoever the appropriate person is, to consider two things. First, an assignment that would be directed to perhaps the technology committee, in which we would consider televising the committee meetings in the same manner that these meetings are televised. That would give much more awareness. Some people call it transparency. I don't really like that word, but the truth is, the more people know about how city government is running and what's involved in the decisions, the better able they are to make decisions about how they will make. So the second item would be one I've talked with our very able council president about, the nonprofit funding committee, which is a consequence of an ordinance that was passed probably, a year and a half ago, 2 years. It did not meet in April. Perhaps what needs to be done is an assignment to the appropriate committee as to making an enforcement of that nonprofit committee to take into account that perhaps it didn't help as much as you were hoping it would. Yes, I'm directing that to our esteemed council president, at least in part, but he would know what committee to give that to. Finally, I think it's important that when caught like this, we watch, don't leave pets and any kind of children in a car for any length of time, because it'll probably cook their brains. So let's not do that. But also, an easier thing is to check on your neighbors to make sure they're okay, because sometimes older folks may think, oh, it's not that bad. We've been through this before. But as you age, as I do, you realize that maybe your body doesn't have the same way of adjusting to the heat that it used to. So I would just suggest that you check on your elderly neighbors, elderly members of your family. Just make sure they're okay. Just a quick call, just to make sure, or even stop by unexpectedly just to see that they're all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Galen Kaltenbach from 505 McKellar Street, and I think it's poison ivy, and I'll be really embarrassed if it's something else, but on the corner of McKellar and East 7th, there's this abandoned house that is just overgrown with poison ivy, and I think it's the mother plant in my block, because there's just tons of poison ivy throughout the block, and it's hard to take care of. But I think it kind of comes from that house. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the free market that the Pride Coalition has been running every third Friday of the month. And I know Kevin came to the one before this last one. This last one was pretty successful. There was over 70 attendants. There were some highlights, like one of my friends was able to find the brake pads for his Jeep that somebody just donated. Somebody donated a giant dollhouse, so that went to some kid. And somebody donated a huge tub of Nerf guns, and there was a Nerf gun fight that happened, and so that was pretty cool. And around August, I want to try to get school supplies. So, but if you guys are interested in coming to the free market and donating anything, especially things that it's especially hard for most people to donate things that you have to buy, like food and hygiene items. So if you are able to buy extra food and hygiene items and able to bring it, every third Saturday of the month, we have the free market at the library in the annex. The next one is, I think, July 19th. But yeah, I'd like to see you there. And that's it. What time? Oh, 12 to 3.
Thank you.
Saturday.
If there was no one else, we'll now move on to old business. Is there any old business to come before council? Hearing none, we'll move on to petitions and correspondence.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. I've received one item, which is an economic development transfer form, also known as a TREX form. It is the issued permit holder business name is Home Buys Incorporated, located at 985 North Bridge Street in the Old Big Lots parking lot. They are looking to transfer a liquor license to that facility so that they can have an alcohol section. So it's been submitted to me. If there are no issues with it, I will sign it and get it submitted back to the Ohio Department of Commerce.
Next, we'll move to new business. Is there any new business to come before council? As Councilman Creed mentioned, next Monday at 5 o'clock, we'd like to have a special meeting. I'll ask the mayor to call that so that we can take care of some business that we couldn't take care of today because of an absence of individuals. There were some folks already scheduled to be out of town, and then we had one person who was ill, so it was just unfortunate we didn't have the numbers we would have liked. But that'll be announced, and I'll make sure that is sent out and that everybody can see the announcement. And I will just echo what Mr. Thacker said about the heat and trying to help everybody. This is oppressive, and it can be hard on some folks. But I do appreciate that when Mr. Thacker was speaking about the elderly, he didn't reference the esteemed city council president. So we'll move on from there. Reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. This evening, we have 11 items on our agenda. Item number 1 is the third reading of an ordinance amending the utility department's cross-connection and backflow prevention policy in compliance with the Ohio Administrative Code.
Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn. Creed.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance.
Item number 2 is the third reading of an ordinance reallocating funds from the sewer capital project titled Generator to the Marietta Lift Station Improvements Project.
Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. The next ordinance.
Item number 3 is the third reading of an ordinance appropriating $7,924.90 to purchase 5 laptop computers for the law director's office.
Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance.
Item number 4 is the third reading of an ordinance providing for an agreement between the City of Chiillicothe, Ohio, and the Ross County Commissioners, whereby the City of Chiillicothe, Ohio, will continue to be eligible through 2026 for state reimbursement of costs incurred in appointing counsel for indigent criminal defendants.
Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance.
Item number 5 is the third reading of an ordinance appropriating $146,032.67 to pay the City of Chillicothe's share of a previous Ohio Department of Transportation Western Avenue Safety Project.
Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. Next ordinance.
Item number 6 is a second reading of an ordinance to appropriate $100,000 to the income tax refund line and authorize the transfer of $25,000 back to the general fund to support the proportionate share of income tax refunds.
Ordinance will move to the next agenda. Next resolution.
Item number 7 is the second reading of a resolution establishing the Greater Chiillicothe Ross County Film Commission and defining its composition, purpose, duties, and operational guidelines.
The resolution will move to the next agenda. Next ordinance.
Item number 8 is the second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 915.08 of the City Codified Ordinances to increase water rates by 2%.
The ordinance will move to the next agenda. Next resolution.
Item number 9 is the second reading of a resolution adopting the tax budget for the City of Chiillicothe, Ohio for the calendar year beginning January 1, 2026, submitting the same to the county auditor and declaring an emergency.
Resolution will move to the next agenda. Next ordinance.
Item number 10 is the first reading of an ordinance extending the Chiillicothe Municipal Court Victim Witness Assistance Program, authorizing application for Victims of Crimes Act and State Victims Assistance Act grants, authorizing matching and additional funding, authorizing the acceptance and appropriation of grant funds if awarded, and declaring an emergency.
The ordinance will move to the next agenda. The next resolution.
Item number 11 is the first reading of a resolution approving signage variances for Coco's Salon and Spa located at 54 Ewing Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio, and for Eurig Financial Group located at the corner of Walnut and 2nd Streets, Chiillicothe, Ohio, as recommended by the Board of Zoning Appeals and declaring an emergency.
Resolution will move to the next agenda. There being no more resolutions or ordinances, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Ms. Bennett, second by Ms. Payne. The clerk will call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.